GameStop employees of Reddit, what are some of your horror stories? This was 2007 or so. GameStop had a used game return policy, 7 days no questions asked, full refund. People would abuse this constantly, like a rental service. We knew it, and we were able to flag people who did it too often, and decline them the returns. Manager policy, not company policy. Then there was this one bitch. Old lady, gaggle of grandkids. Seemed so sweet, was very nice to us while in the store, asking for help, recommendations, etc. Bought them a PS2, and a freaking gigantic stack of games, like had to be 20-25 at least. Her total came out over $400. I rang her out, handed her the multiple bags of stuff, and said to the kids something along the lines of, "Wow, you guys are lucky to have such a great grandma. This many games will last you months." The grandma chuckled and said, "Oh, they're only in town for the week. You guys have that 7-day return policy. I'll see you in 6 days." Former employee. 2 wonderful stories. Older lady brings in a bag. She looks like an addict, and she wants to sell her Wii. I put my hand in the bag, and it's soaking wet. Cat piss. She was furious I wouldn't take it. From that day forward, made every customer take all trades out of bags themselves. My first store was long and I had a kid, and mom in back. Mom wasn't paying attention at all, 8-year-old walking around. Gets really quiet. Then mom rushes the kid out of the store. Go back there, and he took a shit on the floor. Watch the tape, mom finds him squatting. Lets him finish, then takes him out. Also, when you get done alphabetizing the Wii games, and notice your hands are covered in mystery sticky stuff, from all of the filthy children handling the cases. That was pretty gross. You think that's bad? Try being the technician at a JR High where every student has a Chromebook. I'd go through a giant thing of hand sanitizer every week. 11-14-year-olds are gross. Years ago, 2007 to 2008-ish, I trained a kid that turned around and robbed the store at gunpoint a month after we fired him for stealing. He and his buddies left without shooting anyone. My co-worker was on the phone with the cops after he left, while I was getting his old employee file out. Reading off his 2 addresses he had down, parents and grandparents, phone number, etc. He's still serving time as the gun they used was apparently used in another homicide. Edit. Holy shit. Long time lurker, only started posting a few weeks ago. Biggest response I've had. But to clarify a few questions I've received the last few hours. Don't know who else was killed. I didn't find that out till after I had to go to court and testify. Even then, it wasn't something brought up to me personally. I found out when the verdict was reached, and it was brought up. This happened in Jacksonville, FL. I've been looking for the article about it. But it's not hard to believe a gun with a body on it pops up. It's one of those cities with the highest unsolved murder rates. And yeah, I was surprised as hell about it. He seemed like a good kid. Halfway through his senior year, good grades. And no, not with GameStop anymore. After this incident, LP came to town and started cleaning house. The GM quit, AGM was fired, and I, the SGA, right under the AGM, was acting manager, for a couple months without any raise in pay. I was told I wasn't getting a promotion, but I would have to train the new managers coming in. I quit without a 2 weeks notice. The guy who comes in with obviously stolen stuff, but can't be called out on it so he just keeps it up. Did you end up taking the stuff from him or did he leave eventually? Have to accept it. Can't prove it was stolen there on the spot. But he stopped coming in. Not like he was making a fortune doing it, but my guess is he felt like he'd burned himself there, coming in 8 months straight with 5 PS4s, 5 Xbox Ones, loads of games of all types, a few DS's, always missing the charger. I used to be the ASM of a GameStop, but nothing really out of the ordinary happened there. Just a lot of lingerers. When I was the manager of a local game store though, there was definitely a lot of wild stories. The one that sticks out the most is this old dude we called Psycho Sexy, who would come in every Monday morning, try to sell me or whoever was working bootleg porn DVDs. He would tell us they were good for busting fat ass nuts to and that he'd sell them to us super cheap. Every Monday he'd come in, open up his duffel bag of bootleg porn, get refused, then leave and come back the following Monday. This went on for almost 3 years. Never was an employee, but on the night Grand Theft Auto 4 came out, I was waiting in line and this kid rode up in the parking lot and starting bragging about how he got the first copy and held his copy out the window. After about 10-15 seconds of bragging and holding it outside the window, another kid ran up from behind the car, yanked the copy from his hand, and ran into the woods behind the GameStop. They never found the kid who took it, and the kid in the car started crying immediately. Former GS employee here. Worked in a store on the edge of a super sketchy part of Akron, Ohio. Back in the PS2 era, a guy brought in a box of trades. There were 3 games: Leisure Suit Larry, Playboy, The Mansion, The Guy Game. The rest of the box was nothing but porn on VHS. He was politely asked to leave. He asked us why. My co-worker's response had me keeling over. Because there's jizz all over your shit. He left. Worked at GS a long time ago, but I'll never forget this one. One night a guy brought in a really dusty and dirty GameCube wanting cash, of course. I asked him if it worked, and he said he didn't know because he hadn't played it in a long time. I told him that we have to check every console, and when I turned it on and opened the lip, about 100 roaches came running out all over the counter. I got scolded by management for helping a woman for 30 minutes. She bought 12 games and was looking for good recommendations for her son who was on the spectrum. I found every game on her list and a few more to surprise him. Those surprise games were Okami and Katamari Damacy. She was overjoyed that her son was going to have lots of good games to play. Why were they mad over such a large sale? Oh, because they weren't fucking used. Fuck that store. That woman wanted to make sure her son was happy, and I was tasked to do so. I know I did a good job, and you guys can close shop. Edit. I probably won't be able to reply to everyone. Thanks for all the positive comments. I worked for as a whitelisted Comcast employee once, and the basic idea was not to help customers, but just to get customers off of the Phonus app. I went out of scope on a regular basis to help customers with issues that employees weren't allowed to help with. I'd say I probably had close to a 99% success rate with solving issues that other employees weren't capable of resolving, or weren't trying to resolve based on our scope. I got bad audits, but I'd rather get those bad audits over telling the guy that's been calling 3 times a week for the past 4.5 years to get fucked when it literally takes me less than 5 minutes to walk him through a resolution to his problems. I can't believe there isn't an actual system in place for helping customers with out-of-scope problems. Especially considering many pay for their services for years, but barely get to utilize them because of outside reasons that the average consumer just doesn't understand. I worked at GameStop as a RASM and SM for 4-ish years. I have so many stories of creepy, scary and rude customers. Some highlights. I once got asked out on a date at the register. I'm young and naive and awkward, and I kind of stop in my tracks and tell him that I'm working and I can't answer that. I work another 4 hours or so and close by myself, and he was waiting in the parking lot for me to leave. I had a family that would bring their son in every Saturday. They explained to me that he had severe autism, and he was nonverbal. No problem, except they would stand in a corner and text or whatever while he'd knock over stands, rip things from walls, and even run behind the counter and try to bite you. I had to get permission to ban them from the store, but I was tired of trying to not get bit. Edit. For some clarification, just because a customer was awkward does not mean to me that they were creepy. This guy was a special case, hence why I wrote about it. I met friends I will always love when they were customers. I met people I worked with in the gaming industry in other capacities. I met my ex, etc. I am about to get my degree to specifically work and study children with disabilities. I have no problem being kind and patient with anyone, including children, but I don't want to be bit by a kid that I have no way to protect myself or my employees from. If y'all could stop sending me hate mail about being a nervous 19-year-old kid with a 40-year-old man leaning on her car at night, that would be awesome. Also, the other people's stories about seeing disgusting stuff is true. I saw more porn on PS Vitas than I want to admit. I found drugs in game cases, and mostly I just saw a ton of systems filled with cockroaches. Day in the life, I guess.